Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Daniel Rashid bin Abdul Razak. My student ID is 2019297214. Today I will explain about dynamic 2 crank and slider experiment. Bodoh siapa ni. For my experiment is the length is 116, and this is experimentable for my experiment. This is the chart displacement versus angular rotation from the experimental table. Discussion 1. Explain how a crank and slider system work. Crank and slider work when there are explosion between the slider and the combustion chamber. When the explosion happens, it push the slider back and will rotate the crank, which then give energy to rotate component. The explosion can only happen if there is a mixture of air and fuel that easily burns when the spark ignites, thus creating the explosion because it compressed. Second, compare and discuss the result from the theoretical and experimental tables. Based on the result that I obtained through the entire experiment, I conclude that when the slider moves faster inside the tube, the crank will rotate faster as they are connected. The theoretical and experiment value is not same because during the experiment, there is a possibility that some error happen when we are conducting the experiment, thus affecting the result. Give your comment or suggest at least 4 causes of errors that may affect the result of the experiment. The error that may affect while we conducting this experiment is parallax error, which is when we read the values, our eyes are not perpendicular to the scale and we maybe take the wrong reading. Next is caused by slight fluctuation in an instrument, environment, or the way we measure. Third is systematic error that give the measurement consistently different from the true nature. Last, procedural error occurs when different procedures are used to answer the same question and provide slightly different answer. List some of the practical applications of a crank and slider mechanism. Some of the practical application of a crank and slider mechanism is inside an engine where it used to fuel to work. Engine that runs using fuel depends heavily on the crank and slider mechanism to work. Conclusion: In conclusion, the objective of this experiment has been achieved, which is the effect changing the connecting rod length and about planar kinematic motion. We could say that the change of the crank radius will affect the speed of the slider moving in and out. Lastly, we also know that the less the displacement, the faster the slider will move.